Hey boys and girls, Lucky here and welcome back to another Valorant video. Today we'll talk about the running accuracy. Alrighty, so first of all, I think we all know what it feels like when someone's just running around the corner, shooting you, and he keeps running. Now, this is what it feels like way more often than it should be in my opinion, or how it should feel like. Now, to test this once again, I went to the practice range and actually checked how accurate some of the guns are. I'll only show you a couple examples like the pistols, because obviously they are pretty good for like running and gunning, and then we'll compare it to the rifles, which supposed to be are not. Now you can actually see that while running and gunning, they really are not that accurate. They really are not. Even the pistols aren't that good. Now if you shift walk, however, it's a completely different story, as you can see in the background footage, because as soon as you're shift walking, your accuracy goes up by a lot. So just by, I mean, usually just shift walk peeking is never a good idea because you're so slow, but you already have like almost full accuracy. I mean, probably not like 100%, but looks like 90 or 90% plus from what I've seen, so it's really damn accurate. Like usually you would counter-strafe or stutter step in order to gain accuracy, so you run, press the opposite movement key, and then you can fire. I think in Valorant now you actually have the option to just use shift walking as well in order to do that. So you do not actually have to counter-strafe, but instead you have to learn to shift walk at the right time. And even though that is not as good and as accurate, potentially, as proper counter-strafing, it still gets the job done most of the time from what I've seen. Now, since the devs are really into their own game, which I do really appreciate, love, and like, they also talk a lot about it on Twitch, on their streams, and they also answer a lot of Reddit threads. So for this one, I just wanted to let one of the devs talk and let you guys know about his thoughts about the running accuracy.
I'm okay, or like I guess I sign up for the notion that walking or accuracy doesn't need to be binary, in the sense that, you know, you don't need to be perfectly still to be perfectly accurate, or like perfectly still. I think you need to be perfectly still to be perfectly accurate, but I don't think any amount of movement should make it so that you're wildly inaccurate. And so I think that we can be, personally, I think we can be harsher on what movement penalties are currently, but I don't think we want to be in a world where like moving moving can never be a viable tactic even when up close. I do think we have room to make more of the mid-range like times you die while to a moving shooter, like to reduce that amount by a lot. But you know, making it, if we get to, you know, there might become to a point where it's like, hey, if you're moving, you just can't shoot. You might as well just do that. So I'm okay, or like I guess I sign up.
Alright, so in the clip he already acknowledged that there might be some sort of thing that they should be tweaking. He talks about making it potentially more inaccurate in some scenarios, specifically talking about the distances where running and gunning should be a valuable strategy, right? If you're using an SMG up and close, same as a shotgun up and close, of course that should work 100% of the time in my opinion. Same for the pistols, up close, like you're within 5 meters, sure, running and gunning should at that point be somewhat of a viable strategy. I do not disagree with that. He also talks about binaries, which I think is more important in this case. Because, let's again bring it back to CS. You either go counter-strafe and stutter step and be accurate, or you don't and you hit. So, even though this is like a harsher system, I can see that it might not be the best system, because sometimes adding something like having less accuracy but still being able to shoot while running to some sort of degree, adding like another layer of tactic in there, as long as it's not too strong, so that you never ever go to actually do like proper counter-strafing for like certain distances. So I think this is a spot where like having a certain proper distance for the certain range in which you're shooting in, like being the most effective one. So anything up to medium but not more, probably be better, I guess. But it's not really what many of us are experiencing or what I'm talking about. That sounds all great and good, and I have complete trust in that that point can be working just completely fine. However, what I'm talking about is someone just straight up running and gunning and shooting you, and you're dying on your screen. They have like a rifle, and it's like they shoot you from bottom of C long on Haven, and you're just on the top at the like default box. You're like, what the hell? How did you just kill me? And for that, I have another theory. So let's go and watch one of the network videos that Riot put out recently.
Got a clip here of a player on the right peeking out on a player on the left. As the player peeks out, there's actually a window of time where he can see the opponent before the opponent sees him. This in its sense is like horrible for gameplay. We want to minimize this as much as possible. How does this happen? Why does this exist? Let me show you that as well. So I made a small diagram to kind of demonstrate. We've got player A and player B. Player A is stepping out on player B. And the reason for that actual delay is a network round trip from player A's computer to the game server down to player B. That entire loop takes that long before B realizes that A exists. So minimizing this loop is of the utmost importance for us maintaining competitive integrity.
So of course that and Peeker's advantage makes complete sense, and currently I think since we're still in closed beta and do not experience most of the time the ping that they said they could provide, partly probably because of COVID-19, I think it's very likely that something like this obviously will improve over time even after the game has been fully released. Now, that still doesn't completely answer the running and gunning problem when it's like long range with a rifle or something like that. So how does this happen still? So I have another clip that might be explaining that a little better.
If a client has substandard tick beneath 128, we can actually upsample that for your better viewing as a remote client. Now, they can only actually give input 64 times a second, but what we do is we guarantee the smoothness of the network delivery. So instead of seeing like choppiness in the updates, you'll see a little bit more smooth stream of player movement. And that just helps you for hit tracking. So when you're trying to follow with your rifle or your sniper, it's just easier to follow the player as they traverse across the play space.
Now I think here's where the problem lies currently. So even though they're mainly talking about substandard FPS and then they're interpolating it to match like the tick rate of the servers and stuff like that, I think that the smoothing might actually be a contributing factor to why it looks like the running and gunning is a viable option, even though I think most of the time people are actually counter-strafing or stopping or slowing down with shift before they start shooting at you. But the smoothing is not catching up with it soon enough, so it actually portrays the enemy as still running. Of course, I'm not the only person experiencing that. Most people are. Now, on Reddit, of course, because of that, was a post, and it had 1.3k upvotes, and one of the devs actually replied, and we got some handy insight into the whole system, I'd say. Now, here in the post, they also talked about the smoothing factor and how that potentially does affect gameplay. Now, it's kind of like the CL interp ratio thing command that we had in CS as well. Although this command or the setting has been set to the lowest amount already. Now, with the last patch, we actually were able to change it now from minimum to like medium and the max. And of course, that gives like different buffer times in order to make the models appear smoother, which I think that sort of smoothing could potentially like be part of the problem. Again, at this point, I'm just guessing, and this is what I feel like might be the problem right here. They also elaborate a little bit more again, so I will link everything that has been in this post in the description down below so you can check it out for yourself and read up on it. Maybe you have a different opinion or saw something else that I didn't see in there. So it really looks like there might be a combination of different things happening right here. Maybe a player has bad ping, the other one has bad FPS, or like huge FPS drops all of a sudden, and the other one combined with like packet loss or so, and the interpolation or the smoothing just doesn't work as intended, and because of that, it looks like they keep running while they've already been standing still for quite some time. Now, again, it's not that easy, and last but not least, I want to go over the last part that they're talking right here in the strafe shooting department, and let you guys know what they think about that. So again, one of their takes is also that the smoothing might be partly responsible for that. However, it's only about 8 milliseconds, which of course is not extremely long. So when I'm checking back on my footage, which I record in 60 FPS, that's just too fast to see a difference on my screen when I'm recording, but I still can see it. So there might be a little bit more of a problem right there than there currently is just from purely the buffering. So I think, yes, of course, that mainly the reason, but maybe not just that, because that might be too short of a time frame to actually be noticeable on a 60 FPS recording. Now, they offer 3 possible solutions for the future of what they might be doing. First of all, is changing the animations to make it clearer once someone is standing still and running, to make the transition between those more snappy and faster, so you can better tell when someone's actually running and when someone is standing still. The other one is, right now, the frame where you die in is kind of blocking the visibility of the enemy. So they might change it a little bit as well to actually see, okay, has this guy been running or has he already been standing still? And it was just some problem the second you died that kind of portrayed it in a different light of what it actually might have looked like, maybe because of the way the camera was set up when you died or something like that. And then they also are considering a no remote interrupt delay, which would get rid of the almost, or almost sounds like a lot, but 8 milliseconds really isn't that much for interpolation, I think. Maybe it is, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like when some people that I play with have like 80 ping, 8 milliseconds is the lesser evil right here. So just, I think overall getting down the ping for each player should be better overall. But of course, that's something noticeable, and of course the downside to this is if there's no smoothing at all, there might be more visual pop-ups, and just overall people might just appear suddenly around the corner if there's like some sort of deal of packet loss going on combined with like some other lag or FPS inconsistencies. I don't know. So these are the things. Again, I will link everything in the description down below so you can check it out for yourself and see what you think about it. Let me know what you think about it if you want to in the comment section down below, and lucky skill faker out.